The Golden Age of Muslim Science. Between the 8th and 14th centuries, the Muslim world experienced a remarkable intellectual revolution, often known as the Golden Age of Science. During this time, cities like Baghdad, Cairo, Cordoba, and Samarkand became global centers of knowledge, invention, and scholarship. Muslim scholars, driven by both curiosity and faith, began to explore the mysteries of the universe through observation, experimentation, and reasoning. Their goal was not merely to preserve knowledge from previous civilizations, but to expand it, and in doing so, they laid the groundwork for modern science. One of the most influential institutions of that time was the House of Wisdom, Bait al-Hikmah, in Baghdad, established during the reign of Caliph Harun al-Rashid and his son al-Mamun. It was not just a library, it was a research institute, translation center, and meeting place for scholars from various parts of the world. Greek, Persian, and Indian texts were translated into Arabic, and from these works, Muslim scientists built new theories, inventions, and mathematical systems. Among the key fields of progress was astronomy. Muslim astronomers such as al-Battani, al-Zarqali, and al-Tusi refined Greek models of planetary motion and improved the accuracy of astronomical tables. Their observations paved the way for later astronomers like Copernicus, who acknowledged Muslim contributions in his own work centuries later. The invention and refinement of tools like the astrolabe allowed sailors to navigate vast oceans and deserts using the stars. In the field of medicine, Muslim physicians revolutionized healthcare with their systematic approach to disease, surgery, and pharmacology. Al-Razi, a Persian doctor, wrote the comprehensive book on medicine, which remained a standard reference in Europe for centuries. Ibn Sina, known as the Prince of Physicians, authored The Canon of Medicine, a text that became the cornerstone of medical education in both the Muslim and Western worlds until the 17th century. These physicians emphasized hygiene, diet, and preventative care, concepts that are still vital in modern medicine. Mathematics also flourished. Muslim scholars introduced algebra from al-Jabr and made crucial advancements in trigonometry and geometry. The mathematician Al-Khwarizmi, whose name gave rise to the word algorithm, developed systematic methods for solving equations and introduced Hindu numerals to the Islamic world, later adopted by Europe as the Arabic numerals we use today. In chemistry, Muslim scientists like Jabir ibn Hayyan, Jabir, laid the foundations for experimental chemistry. He introduced laboratory apparatus, such as distillation flasks, and developed methods for crystallization and evaporation. Jabir's emphasis on experimentation, testing, and verifying results became a defining feature of the modern scientific method. This period also witnessed great advances in engineering, optics, and mechanics. Al-Jazari, for example, designed ingenious machines such as water clocks, automatic fountains, and even the early prototypes of the crankshaft, an essential part of modern engines. Meanwhile, Ibn al-Haytham, al-Haytham, conducted groundbreaking experiments on light and vision, establishing the principles of modern optics. His book of optics influenced not only the Muslim world, but also European scientists like Kepler and Da Vinci. What made this era so extraordinary was the spirit of inquiry and openness. Muslim scholars collaborated across cultures, Arab, Persian, Turkish, Indian, and Andalusian, believing that knowledge was a universal gift from God. They combined spiritual wisdom with scientific reasoning, seeing no conflict between faith and science. As the Quran repeatedly encourages reflection on the natural world, these scholars viewed their work as a form of worship and understanding of divine creation. By the end of the Golden Age, Muslim contributions had spread to Europe through translations made in Toledo and Sicily. These works became the seeds of the European Renaissance, proving that modern science did not begin in isolation, but evolved through a rich, interconnected history led by Muslim thinkers.
The pioneers of medicine and surgery. While Europe was still in the shadow of the Dark Ages, the Muslim world was performing surgeries, building hospitals, and studying the human body with remarkable precision. Muslim physicians approached medicine as both a science and an art, guided by the belief that healing the body was an act of serving humanity and obeying God's command to preserve life. Their work laid the foundation of modern medical ethics, clinical observation, and hospital systems that we still rely on today. One of the earliest and most influential figures was Abu Bakr al-Razi, Raziz. Born in Persia in the 9th century, al-Razi was a true polymath, doctor, chemist, and philosopher. His Kitab al-Hawi, comprehensive book on medicine, compiled centuries of medical knowledge and his own observations. What made him revolutionary was his emphasis on empirical observation. He insisted that doctors must rely on evidence rather than theory. Al-Razi was also the first to distinguish between smallpox and measles, saving countless lives through accurate diagnosis. He even wrote about mental health and encouraged kind treatment for patients suffering from psychological disorders, something unheard of at the time. Then came Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, one of the brightest minds in human history. His monumental book, The Canon of Medicine, Al-Qanun fi al-Tib, became the most authoritative medical text in both the Islamic and Western world for over 500 years. The canon systematically described anatomy, diseases, symptoms, and treatments, setting a model for modern medical education. Ibn Sina emphasized hygiene, the importance of a balanced diet, and preventative care, ideas that are still relevant today. He also recognized the contagious nature of infectious diseases long before the concept of germs was understood in Europe. Another major figure in surgical innovation was Abu al-Qasim al-Zaghrawi from Cordoba, Spain. Often called the father of modern surgery, al-Zaghrawi wrote Kitab al-Tasrif, a 30-volume encyclopedia of medicine and surgery. He invented over 200 surgical instruments, including scalpels, forceps, and catgut sutures for internal stitching, many of which are still used in modern forms today. His detailed illustrations of surgical techniques made his work essential reading for doctors for centuries after his death. Al-Bukhasis also stressed gentleness, patience, and compassion in medical practice, believing that moral character was as important as technical skill. In hospitals across the Islamic world, from Baghdad to Cairo to Damascus, the organization of healthcare reached unprecedented levels. Hospitals known as Bimaristans were open to everyone, regardless of wealth, religion, or background. They were divided into departments: surgery, internal medicine, psychiatry, and ophthalmology. Doctors, nurses, and pharmacists worked in teams, and patients received food, medicine, and rest, all for free. These institutions were so advanced that European crusaders visiting the Middle East later adopted many of their systems when building hospitals back home. Muslim physicians were also pioneers in ophthalmology, the science of eye diseases. Since eye ailments were common in the desert environment, scholars like Ibn al-Haytham, Ammar ibn Ali al-Mawsili, and Ali ibn Isa made groundbreaking contributions. They developed new surgical tools for cataract operations and wrote detailed manuals on eye anatomy and treatments. Ibn al-Haytham's work on how light enters the eye through the lens to form images laid the scientific foundation for modern optics and vision science. In pharmacology and chemistry, Muslim scientists built upon the work of al-Razi and Jabir ibn Hayyan to develop systematic drug preparation methods. They extracted medicines from plants, minerals, and even animal substances, recording their effects meticulously. They were the first to establish pharmacies, or saydalas, as regulated shops supervised by qualified chemists. Many of the medicines they formulated, such as camphor, senna, and alcohol-based antiseptics, remained in use for centuries. The Muslim approach to medicine was not only scientific but deeply ethical. Physicians took oaths similar to the modern Hippocratic Oath to promise to treat patients with dignity and without discrimination. They viewed illness as a challenge, not a punishment, and healing as both a duty and a divine blessing. Their balance of spiritual faith and scientific method created a humane medical tradition that influenced Europe during the Renaissance and continues to inspire the world today. By the 12th century, translated works of Al-Razi, Ibn Sina, and Al-Zaghrawi reached European universities like Montpellier and Salerno, where they became the foundation of Western medical education. Without the legacy of these Muslim pioneers, modern surgery, hospitals, and clinical medicine would look completely different.
The mathematicians and astronomers of Islam were two of the most advanced sciences in the Muslim world. For centuries, Muslim scholars transformed the way humanity understood numbers, geometry, and the cosmos. Their discoveries not only solved practical problems like navigation and architecture, but also shaped the very structure of modern science and technology. The words algebra, algorithm, and zenith themselves are of Arabic origin, proof of how deeply these contributions are woven into the language of science today. The story of mathematics in the Islamic world begins with Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, the father of algebra. Born in the 9th century in Khwarizm, modern-day Uzbekistan, Al-Khwarizmi worked at the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, where he wrote several influential books. His most famous work, Kitab al-Jabr wal-Muqabala, the compendious book on calculation by completion and balancing, gave the world the term algebra. This book introduced methods for solving linear and quadratic equations and provided systematic rules for dealing with unknowns, forming the basis of modern algebra. But Al-Khwarizmi's influence didn't stop there. His name gave rise to the word algorithm, the cornerstone of all computer science today. He also introduced Hindu-Arabic numerals, 0 to 9, to the Islamic world, which later replaced the cumbersome Roman numerals in Europe. His works were translated into Latin in the 12th century and became essential textbooks in European universities, influencing mathematicians like Fibonacci and paving the way for modern numerical computation. Another mathematical genius was Omar Khayyam, a Persian scholar known for his contributions to both poetry and mathematics. In his treatise on demonstration of problems of algebra, Khayyam classified cubic equations and developed geometric methods for solving them, centuries before Descartes introduced coordinate geometry in Europe. His interest in precise measurement in calendars also led him to reform the Persian calendar, which remains more accurate than the Gregorian calendar used today. Muslim mathematicians also advanced trigonometry, transforming it from a tool for astronomy into an independent mathematical discipline. Scholars like al-Battani, Nasir al-Din al-Tusi, and Abu al-Wafa defined the sine, cosine, and tangent functions in the way we use them today. Al-Battani's Zij al-Sabi, Book of Astronomical Tables, accurately calculated the length of the solar year, predicted eclipses, and improved values for the Earth's axial tilt. His precise observations were later used by Copernicus, who cited Al-Battani by name in his De Revolutionibus Orbis Celestium. In astronomy, Muslim scientists aimed to understand the heavens as a reflection of divine order. They meticulously observed the stars, planets, and celestial movements, not just for spiritual curiosity, but for practical purposes like determining prayer times, Qibla direction, and navigation. To achieve this, they invented and refined complex instruments such as the astrolabe, sextant, and armillary sphere. One of the greatest astronomers of all time was Nasir al-Din al-Tusi. In the 13th century, he built a massive observatory at Maraga in modern-day Iran, equipped with advanced instruments for measuring planetary motion. He developed the Tusi couple, a mathematical model that explained how linear motion could be generated from two circular motions, an idea that directly influenced Copernicus's heliocentric theory centuries later. Another extraordinary figure was Al-Jazari from Muslim Spain. He improved the design of the astrolabe, created highly accurate astronomical tables, the Toledan tables, and even measured the solar year more precisely than Ptolemy. His data spread across Europe through Latin translations, where it became the foundation for navigation during the Age of Discovery. Meanwhile, Ulugh Beg, a 15th century ruler and astronomer from Samarkand, built one of the largest observatories in the pre-modern world. His team measured star positions with unprecedented precision and compiled the Zij-i-Sultani, a star catalog so accurate that it remained unmatched until the invention of the telescope. Ulugh Beg's dedication to pure science over politics made him one of the last great astronomer kings in Islamic history. Muslim interest in the stars also had a strong philosophical dimension. Astronomers saw the cosmos as a manifestation of divine harmony and order. The Quran repeatedly invites believers to reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth, inspiring centuries of celestial study. This spiritual motivation gave Islamic astronomy a unique blend of faith and rationality, where science became a means to understand God's universe more deeply. Their advances also had enormous practical applications. Accurate astronomical charts helped travelers navigate the deserts and oceans long before the compass became common. They allowed Muslims to determine prayer times and the lunar calendar with great precision, and their instruments later guided European explorers like Columbus and Magellan. The contributions of Muslim mathematicians and astronomers went far beyond preservation. They redefined the world's understanding of numbers and the heavens. From Al-Khwarizmi's algebra to Tusi's planetary models, these scholars created the mathematical language that powers everything from modern engineering to computer algorithms. Their work stands as a shining reminder that the foundations of modern science were not built in isolation, but through centuries of knowledge shared across civilizations.
The engineers, chemists, and inventors of the Muslim world. When we think of invention and engineering, our minds often turn to modern technology, machines, engines, robotics. But centuries before the Industrial Revolution, Muslim engineers and inventors were already designing sophisticated machines, mechanical systems, and chemical processes that laid the foundation for modern engineering and industry. Their approach combined scientific experimentation, creative design, and practical problem-solving, making them true pioneers of applied science. Al-Jazari, the father of mechanical engineering. At the heart of this legacy stands Ismail Al-Jazari, 1136 to 1206, a mechanical genius from Diyarbakir, modern-day Turkey. He served as chief engineer in the Artakid court and wrote a groundbreaking book titled Kitab fi Marifat al-Hiyal al-Handasiya, the Book of Knowledge of Ingenious Mechanical Devices. This remarkable text, written in 1206, described 100 mechanical inventions, many centuries ahead of their time. Al-Jazari's machines included automatic water clocks, robotic servants, fountains, pumps, and crank-operated mechanisms. His famous elephant clock was not only a timekeeping device, but also a symbol of cultural unity, featuring Indian, Egyptian, Greek, and Arabian elements. It represented how knowledge from different civilizations came together through Islamic scholarship. One of his greatest contributions was the crankshaft, a mechanical innovation that converts rotary motion into linear motion, an essential principle used in engines to this day. His use of gears, valves, and piston systems shows an understanding of mechanical engineering that wouldn't be seen again until the Renaissance. Al-Jazari's work directly inspired later European inventors like Leonardo da Vinci. Beyond technology, Al-Jazari's writing reflects a deep appreciation for precision, beauty, and ethics in engineering. He believed every machine should serve humanity and reflect divine creativity. His meticulous drawings and step-by-step construction guides make his work one of the earliest examples of engineering documentation in history. Jabir ibn Hayyan, the father of chemistry. In the world of chemistry, few names shine brighter than Jabir ibn Hayyan. Living in the 8th century, Jabir transformed ancient alchemy into a true experimental science. He introduced systematic experimentation, precise measurements, and the concept of reproducibility, core principles of the modern scientific method. Jabir's contributions were immense. He developed distillation, crystallization, sublimation, and filtration techniques that are still used in laboratories today. He invented laboratory equipment like alembics, retorts, and distillation flasks, setting the foundation for modern chemical apparatus. Jabir's experiments led to the discovery of sulfuric acid, nitric acid, and aqua regia, the mixture capable of dissolving gold. He was also deeply interested in the composition of substances and theorized that all materials were made of basic elements combined in specific ratios. While his atomic ideas were not accurate in the modern sense, they represented a major step toward chemical classification and understanding. His works were later translated into Latin and influenced European chemists for centuries, giving him the title Father of Chemistry. Al-Kindi, the philosopher of science. Another remarkable figure was Al-Kindi, 801 to 873, a polymath who bridged philosophy and applied science. He made significant advances in cryptography, optics, music theory, and chemical analysis. Al-Kindi's work on the mathematical analysis of music introduced scales and harmonic ratios that later influenced Western music theory. He also invented a method of deciphering coded messages through frequency analysis, which remains a basic principle in modern cryptography. In chemistry, Al-Kindi emphasized quantitative experimentation and criticized mystical approaches to alchemy. He was among the first to describe how to make perfumes and distilled essential oils, laying the foundation of modern cosmetic and fragrance industries. His book On Perfumes and Distillations detailed more than 100 recipes and chemical techniques. Advances in civil and hydraulic engineering. Muslim inventors also excelled in civil engineering and water management, essential for life in arid regions. Engineers designed intricate irrigation systems, underground aqueducts or qanats, and water lifting machines. These systems turned deserts into fertile agricultural lands and supported the growth of major cities across the Islamic world. The invention of water-raising devices like the noria, or water wheel, and the sakia, or animal-powered water pump, transformed agriculture. In Andalusia, Muslim Spain, such technologies allowed farmers to irrigate large fields, introducing crops like rice, sugarcane, and citrus fruits to Europe. These engineering marvels also led to the development of urban water supply networks, fountains, and public baths, symbols of Islamic civilization's concern for cleanliness and community welfare. Industrial innovations. The Muslim world also developed early forms of industrial technology. For example, the city of Damascus became famous for producing Damascus steel, known for its strength and distinctive wavy patterns. This advanced metallurgy combined iron and carbon in precise ways that even modern scientists have found difficult to replicate. Similarly, in India, under Muslim rule, wool, silk, glass, and paper industries thrived, spreading technological knowledge across continents. Paper production, learned from the Chinese and perfected by Muslim craftsmen, revolutionized education and record-keeping. The first paper mills outside China were built in Samarkand and Baghdad, allowing books to become cheaper and more accessible. Without this innovation, the massive spread of knowledge through the Islamic Golden Age and later to Europe would not have been possible. Ethics and philosophy of invention. Muslim engineers viewed invention not merely as mechanical skill, but as an ethical responsibility. Their inventions were guided by the principle of maslahah, benefit to humanity. Machines were designed to ease human labor, provide clean water, or improve timekeeping for prayers. They saw science as a tool for improving life while maintaining harmony with nature. Unlike the later industrial age, which often prioritized profit, Muslim inventors balanced utility with spirituality. They saw mechanical design as a reflection of divine order, an act of understanding God's perfection through creation. This philosophy gave Islamic engineering a unique moral and aesthetic dimension that still inspires scientists today. The legacy. The engineering and chemical innovations of the Muslim world spread far and wide. Through Spain, Sicily, and the Crusades, these technologies reached Europe, influencing Renaissance engineers like Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, and Roger Bacon. From the crankshaft to distillation, from steel production to hydraulic systems, Muslim inventors left behind a legacy that powered the evolution of modern industry. They were not merely preserving ancient knowledge, they were redefining it, combining science, art, and ethics into one. Their inventions became the invisible foundation of our modern world. Every time an engine turns, a lab distills a compound, or water flows through an irrigation system, it carries the echo of a Muslim inventor's genius.
The lasting legacy of Muslim science. As the centuries passed, the brilliance of the Muslim scientific tradition did not fade. It transformed the world. The ideas, inventions, and methods that originated in the Islamic Golden Age spread through trade, translation, and cultural exchange, reshaping Europe and eventually the entire globe. From hospitals to algebra, from optics to chemistry, the influence of Muslim scholars remains embedded in the very foundations of modern science and technology. The transmission of knowledge to Europe. By the 11th and 12th centuries, European scholars began to rediscover the ancient world through Arabic translations of Greek, Persian, and Indian texts. But these translations were not mere copies. They included commentaries, corrections, and innovations by Muslim scientists. Centers like Toledo in Spain and Sicily became hubs of translation where Arabic works were rendered into Latin, igniting the spark of the European Renaissance. Books by Al-Khwarizmi, Ibn Sina, Al-Razi, Al-Zahrawi, and Ibn al-Haytham became essential textbooks in European universities. For instance, the Canon of Medicine by Ibn Sina remained the standard reference in medical schools until the 17th century. Alhazen's Book of Optics directly inspired Roger Bacon, Kepler, and even Leonardo da Vinci. Meanwhile, Al-Khwarizmi's algebra and algorithms became the mathematical backbone of Western science, leading eventually to the rise of modern computing. This intellectual exchange shows that science is a shared human story, a chain of knowledge passed across cultures, languages, and faiths. Muslim scholars acted as both preservers and innovators, bridging ancient wisdom and modern progress. Without their work, Europe's scientific awakening might have been delayed by centuries. Influence on modern scientific method. One of the greatest legacies of Muslim science is the scientific method itself. Long before Bacon, Galileo, or Newton, Muslim scholars emphasized observation, experimentation, and verification. They rejected blind faith in authority and encouraged testing ideas through real-world evidence. Ibn al-Haytham, often called the first true scientist, wrote in his Book of Optics, "The duty of the man who investigates the writings of scientists, if learning the truth is his goal, is to make himself an enemy of all that he reads and to attack it from every side. He should also suspect himself as he performs his critical examination of it, so that he may avoid falling into prejudice or leniency." This spirit of skepticism and experimentation became the core of the modern scientific approach. Muslim chemists like Jabir ibn Hayyan and Al-Razi further advanced the idea that experiments must be repeatable and recorded precisely, a concept that modern laboratories are built upon. Their balance of reasoning and testing marks one of humanity's greatest intellectual revolutions. Social and educational impact. Muslim civilization also transformed education and social access to knowledge. Learning was not confined to elites. Mosques, madrasas, and libraries welcomed anyone eager to learn, rich or poor, male or female. The establishment of universities like the Al-Qarawiyyin in Morocco in 859 CE and the Al-Jazari in Cairo in 970 CE set the model for modern higher education. These institutions offered courses in theology, mathematics, medicine, law, and philosophy, centuries before Oxford or Cambridge existed. Books were mass-produced in paper mills, and public libraries were built in cities from Baghdad to Cordoba. This culture of literacy and curiosity spread a love of knowledge that transcended borders. The Muslim world saw science not as a threat to faith, but as a means to appreciate God's creation, a belief that encouraged inquiry rather than suppressed it. Art, architecture, and science. Muslim scientists also infused art and architecture with mathematical precision and scientific insight. The geometric patterns and symmetry of Islamic architecture reflect a deep understanding of geometry and optics. Structures like the Alhambra in Spain, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, and the Great Mosque of Samarra showcase how science and spirituality could harmonize through beauty. The study of acoustics influenced mosque design for optimal sound, while hydraulic engineering powered fountains and gardens symbolizing paradise. Muslim craftsmen applied chemistry in making ceramics, dyes, and glass. Their techniques spread to Venice and beyond. Every artistic achievement was rooted in scientific mastery. Decline and rediscovery. By the 15th century, political instability, invasions, and the rise of dogmatism in some regions slowed the momentum of Muslim scientific progress. However, the knowledge they had produced continued to travel, influencing the Renaissance, Enlightenment, and eventually the Industrial Revolution. The torch of science passed from east to west, but the light itself had been kindled in Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, and Cordoba. Today, as modern scholars revisit manuscripts and archaeological sites, the depth of Muslim scientific contribution is being rediscovered. From physics and astronomy to engineering and medicine, evidence continues to show how central Muslim minds were to the world's scientific heritage. The modern relevance. In our modern age of technology and globalization, the lessons of the Muslim scientific tradition remain profoundly relevant. They teach us that true science requires curiosity, humility, and ethics. These scholars never saw knowledge as a tool for domination, but as a trust, a way to benefit all humanity. Their emphasis on moral responsibility reminds us that science without compassion can become dangerous. Their achievements also inspire the Muslim youth of today to reconnect with their intellectual heritage. The same curiosity that led Al-Khwarizmi to invent algebra or Al-Jazari to build machines can still transform the world when guided by faith, perseverance, and creativity. Conclusion. The story of Muslim inventors who shaped modern science is not just a chapter of history, it is a mirror of human potential. It shows what can be achieved when people unite faith with reason, imagination with discipline, and knowledge with ethics. The hospitals, algorithms, telescopes, and engines we use today are all silent witnesses to a time when Muslim scholars illuminated the world with learning. As we look to the future, remembering their legacy is not about nostalgia, it is about revival. The same principles that guided them, seeking truth, serving humanity, and respecting creation, can guide us in facing the challenges of our modern age. The scientific legacy of Islam is not lost. It lives on in every field that values curiosity, logic, and compassion. And so, from the deserts of Arabia to the observatories of Samarkand, from the libraries of Baghdad to the laboratories of today, the message remains the same. Knowledge is light, and it belongs to everyone who seeks it.